saying good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon.
I've stood up and spoken on a lot of programs, but today this is a little different for me, and I'm extremely excited. And so I have prepared some remarks, but a lot of times I prepare them, then I never even look down at them. So I'm going to try to look at my notes and stick to what I said. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us this afternoon to help us kick off National Fair Housing Month for the month of April. I know all of you have a lot going on, so I really do appreciate and value people's time. This year, our agency and our planning committee decided to do something a little different. We talked about coming out into the community so we could be closer to the people that we serve. I think whenever I come out in the community, people always remind me that I'm working for them and I'm here to serve them and protect them, and it just keeps us grounded and keeps us fired up about we have a lot to do still. We have much to accomplish, and it always is rewarding for me to see the faces of those that we serve. And so we wanted to come out into the community, and I think that it was a good decision. And so I thank our committee for going with that and to proceed and to be fortunate enough to have Urban Strategies and their leader, their president, Sandra Moore, who agreed to help to co-sponsor the event today. They were gracious enough to make this wonderful space available, have all her staff working with us to make sure it was ready. They got the caterer who they have contracted to provide wonderful food for us. And so they have just really extended themselves to make sure we had everything we needed to make this a great event. Unfortunately, their president, Sandra Moore, had an emergency and is not able to be here, but she does have a representative. But I wanted to make sure that I said thank you to Urban Strategies for jumping right in and saying, yes, we'll partner with you and we'll help to make this a great event. Also, as you probably seen when you came into the building, if you drove around like some people who followed MapQuest and couldn't quite come straight to the building, that we are in a newly revitalized community. And so we also appreciate the work that McCormick Barron Salazar has done. They're the ones who created the new buildings that you see all around you. They created a new mixed income housing community with elderly housing and with housing of market rate and mixed incomes. And within doing that, they created the community building that we're in that is here for the residents. So you see there's a computer lab right across the hall where residents can go and use the computers, where the children can go. They also have aftercare programs right in this room. So later on when we leave out, it'll be transformed back into an aftercare program. And so we appreciate all the work that they've done, working with the residents, also with the St. Louis Housing Authority to build this community. And I think this was one of the largest Hope 6 grants that the city received that helped them and was instrumental in building this community. I'm excited because we're here to celebrate the 44th anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act of 1968. And within that act, it included the Title VIII, which is known as the Fair Housing Act. And our agency works along with many partners that you'll hear today to try to enforce and continue to move forward and protect those rights. The other major thing about today is that today is also the anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. And many have said that the bill was passed because of the assassination was one of the reasons why they were able to get it signed at that time by President Lyndon Johnson. But we also want to remember that this is the anniversary marking the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. And so as we think about those two very powerful and impactful life-changing events that occurred in our history, we also want to, and I also try to remind myself that it is only because those that have come before me that I'm able to stand up here and do what I do. But that is true for all of us. We're only here today because we're standing on the shoulders of those who came before us, those who marched, those who spoke out, those who did what was unpopular, some of those that bled, some of those that gave their lives so that there could be more equality and justice for everyone. And so I always feel elated when I'm in a position to serve, and just want to remind myself and others that we must continue to remember from whence we came. Now, I know there are some people who say, well, you know, civil rights, yeah, that was needed then, you know, and don't think that it's all that relevant today. But there are, unfortunately, many incidents that are occurring all across the country and world that continue to remind us that it is quite relevant today. There is a lot of work to be done. While we've come a long way, we've had some incidents that occur here recently where some people were comparing it to times back in the 50s, 60s, and I think we are far from that. But we still must remember that we have a long way to go. And so as long as there is still racial profiling going on, as long as there is still stereotyping going on, as long as there's still discrimination, there is still inequality, and then we still have work to be done. But it can only happen if we want to be real about what's going on. We have to be willing to face the issues, we have to be willing to address them, and then willing to work to change them. You know, an example in my mind that has really had me saddened is the case of Trayvon Martin, which many of us are familiar with that name now because of the national news. And I see that a lot of the world is watching to see what happens. What are we going to do? And so I think that that is a reminder that there is still injustices going on. And there are still areas where you can't feel comfortable and you can't feel like you have the right to live there just like everybody else. But that's where we come in. All of us here, we do the hard work every day to try to make sure that there is equal access for everyone. One of our biggest missions is our formal mission, because we branch out and start to do a lot of things because people ask us to do other things and we don't like to turn them down. But our core mission at the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency for the city is to work to eliminate, reduce, and remedy discrimination in housing, in employment, in public accommodation, in education, and in city services. We could not do the work that we do if it wasn't for the funding we receive from HUD, the funding we receive from the city, as well as EEOC. I believe that we can overcome obstacles with excellence. And I believe that our office strives to be excellent in all that we do. So we are committed to providing a professional service, quality investigations, and kindness and compassion to the people who have been victimized or believe that they have been damaged and harmed. And so in trying to make sure that we are doing all we can do to provide an excellent service, we also provide training, and we also are doing outreach activities and education in hopes of fulfilling our mission and trying to achieve our goals, as well as trying to make a real impact on bringing change and improvements to St. Louis, but into the society as a whole. We can't succeed by ourselves, and so we have really been trying to reach out to a lot of agencies and partners all across this city. I am a big proponent of partnerships and collaborations, especially in an economic time when things are very limited and are stretched very thin. It makes no sense to have a lot of players out here doing a little something and not working together to reach the same goal and the same mission. And so I'm very proud to announce that this year we have partnered with EHOC, as a lot of us know them, and Black Pride to create a LGBT awareness initiative. So we will be going out into the communities all across the city, and we've already begun our work, and it is only because we were awarded funds for our project from HUD, and it was announced in March. And so we've already started the work, and we'll continue on into the rest of the year. And as we continue to do that, we still are going to be doing some of the other activities that we deem to be important. We have already started meeting this year with some of the directors of the homeless shelters who have agreed to allow us to come in and do education and awareness with their clients. We have gone and met with some of the elder housing apartment buildings who've agreed to let us come in and do awareness and education with their residents. We are serious about talking to whomever will listen about what the laws require and showing them how it is a benefit to all of us to make sure that we do not violate anyone's civil rights. And so I am proud to be in this position, and I hope that when we call on many of you, because I have been making a lot of calls and going to see a lot of people, that you will stand with us and help just create partnerships so that we can work together if there's an opportunity, so that we can make a real change where change is needed. As most of you know, I've been in this position now for just about 6 months as the director of the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency for the city. And I have the distinct pleasure of introducing the man who had enough confidence in my leadership abilities and my judgment to appoint me to be the head of this agency. And he has allowed me to be the head of this agency without any interference. And that doesn't always happen. But he has been very clear on his expectations of my performance. And so I am very thankful, and I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to bring up no other than our mayor, the city of St. Louis, Francis G. Slay.
Stay seated. You don't have to stand up for me. You don't have to stand up for me. Thank you so much. Thank you, April, for the kind introduction, and certainly thank you so much for your leadership for an organization that's very important, not just the city government, but to our entire community. And I have been, as you and I have talked about it, extremely pleased, and not surprised, though, by the energetic approach that you've taken to the job, to your passion for civil rights and fair housing, and to the way you have really built and strong partnerships throughout the community to help you and all of us with something that's so important to the city government and to the city social life, and that is trying to make sure we have civil rights and equality, and we promote diversity and inclusion, and we created even a better environment so more people can feel welcome in the city of St. Louis and feel like they can have equal access to all the important things in life, and not only that, but feel very welcomed as a part of that. And that's something that takes a lot of us to work real hard at. So thank you so much, April, for your leadership, and thank you for putting this together. Appreciate everything. Now, I don't know if I'm supposed to do this, but I do want to recognize the alderwoman for the 19th Ward, Marlene Davis, who is with us. We're in her ward, and she's also worked with her in a couple of capacities, and it's always a pleasure doing that. I see Jeffrey Boyd's here from the 22nd Ward, Craig Schmidt as well from the 20th Ward, the aldermen that are here. If there are any other aldermen, I see Carol Howard, and I see Shane Cohn as well in the audience. Good to have you here. Greg Daly's our Collector of Revenue is here. Good to have you here. We have Congressman Russ Carnahan is with us. Good to have you with us, Russ. And I see Maddie Moore here from Claire McCaskill's office. It's good to have you as well. A lot of people here, a number of cabinet members from my administration. If you will all stand, our people within the administration, my administration, please stand up and just let people know you're all here. And I also see Ruby Bonner is with us, or the previous director of the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency. Good to have you, Ruby. And so I just wanted to be here to join you. This is an important event to celebrate fair housing in the city of St. Louis. Certainly, St. Louis has a big part in the history of fair housing, as we all know. But it takes continuing efforts to make sure we're doing all we can to create an environment that's more welcoming and more fair and more equal to more people. and I was really happy to learn about the award that was last month. We know about the partnership with HUD to collaborate on with the LGBT community to increase awareness of fair housing rights and enforcement mechanisms for fair housing. You know, it's fair housing and civil rights isn't just, as we all know, a black and white issue. I know that is a huge part of it, but it's also about it's a human rights issue altogether, and regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, health status, and all these things. We want everyone to feel welcome and have equal access in our community. All individuals deserve fair housing and equal opportunity. Our diversity makes us stronger, and we know that our differences are something we should capitalize on because it does make us a better community with more assets and more people working together to make St. Louis stronger. We do have a great partnership with HUD and the local HUD office. I know we have with us today Gregory B. King, Esquire, who is the acting director of Region 7. Good to have you with us, Mr. King. It's great to have you here. We want you to know, as I'm sure you do, we have a great relationship and a real good partnership with the local head office. I know James Hurd is here, and Ed Wartz. Thank you so much, you and your staff, for all the work you do. We really enjoy working with you, and we appreciate your support of our efforts. I want to also recognize Will Jordan, who's going to be our guest speaker, the Executive Director of Metropolitan St. Louis Equal Housing Opportunity Council. He's received various human rights awards. Looking forward to hearing your remarks here today. In just a moment, I'm going to be officially proclaiming April as Fair Housing Month in the city of St. Louis. And I know we do this once a year, but it's important that we think about this throughout the year. And I know that all of you that are here, and I recognize a lot of faces, almost all of you I recognize. I've seen you before, I've dealt with you, and just can't thank you enough for the important role that you play individually and collectively in making St. Louis a better place. Finally, I just want to just recognize Lynne Cooper, who will be honoring very shortly, the president of Doorways Interfaith Housing Services. Lynne founded Doorways to address the housing needs of people living with HIV and AIDS. Doorways now provides housing and care for 1,000 households living with HIV/AIDS every year. She helps provide a safe, affordable housing option for low-income and homeless families and individuals living with AIDS to improve access to health care and social services and to make sure they're in compliance with their treatment plans. Her work is improving the lives of so many people in St. Louis. Thank you so much, Lynne. I know you're going to be recognized in a minute, but I wanted to take some time out to thank you for that. And it's really good to see you today. I haven't seen you in a little while. I know you've been addressing some health issues, but you look great, and it's good to have you here. And I know you're still working hard for people who need your leadership. So thank you all, and at this time, if I can get my proclamation here, I'll just, don't need to read the whole thing, which I won't do, but I will just read the last whereas clause, whereas the City of St. Louis and CREA proudly welcomes Executive Director of the St. Louis Equal Housing Opportunity Council, Mr. Will Jordan. We also congratulate Dr. Lynne M. Cooper, President of Doorways Interfaith AIDS Housing Services, on receiving the Distinguished Fair Housing Award, and certainly this is in recognition, again, of the 44th anniversary of Fair Housing Act and the 6th annual Fair Housing Month kickoff celebration. Therefore, I, Francis G. Slay, Mayor of the City of St. Louis, do hereby proclaim April 2012 as Fair Housing Month in the City of St. Louis. Thank you so much, April. Really appreciate all you do and your team. And we'll just bring it out here.
Good afternoon and welcome everyone to the Community Activities Building here at the beautiful Renaissance Place neighborhood. My name is Shauna Daniels and I work with Urban Strategies. I'm a bit out of my element because I am communications. I'm the writer and not the speaker, so bear with me. And I send regrets on behalf of Sandra Moore. Urban Strategies is a not-for-profit agency that works with developers, public housing agencies, residents, and other community stakeholders to rebuild distressed urban communities. And we build them into thriving, vibrant neighborhoods. And I'm proud to say that you are sitting in one of our Urban Strategies communities. So again, welcome. From 2001 to 2008, Urban Strategies worked with McCormick Barron Salazar and with the St. Louis Housing Authority to revitalize the former Bluemeyer public housing development and to build it into the mixed income development now known as Renaissance Place at Grand. We worked with more than 2,000 families, engaged them in the revitalization process. We placed about 300 folks into new jobs. We built a computer lab here where we are proud to say that we entertain and engage youngsters all week long in technology skills development and instruction and homework support. We've placed several youth into youth employment programs and matched kids with mentors through Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So a lot of work has happened here at Renaissance Place, and we are really proud that since the revitalization, crime is reduced here in the community, families are thriving, families are growing, and people are really moving forward here at Renaissance Place. We continue to work here, offering programming, including GED preparation and recreation and sports and arts classes and reading clubs and all kinds of other activities. We do this work all over the country, and we're leading the charge really to break the cycle of intergenerational poverty throughout the country by providing flexible responses to the problem and active partnerships and engaging the community as a whole in transforming lives. So we believe that every person, every gender, every race, every age, and every income deserves to live in a safe and thriving community where it's more than bricks and mortar, but where it's really about sustaining and building and growing. So I want to thank you all. Thank you to all our distinguished guests, which I am not. I am not a distinguished guest. Just filling again for Sandra Moore, who sends her regrets. But thank you all so much for being here, and welcome.
Thank you for inviting Senator McCaskill to the 6th Annual Fair Housing Kickoff event commemorating Fair Housing Month. She regrets that she could not join you today. However, as her Deputy Director, I am delighted to be here on her behalf. Senator McCaskill would like to congratulate April Ford Griffin on being appointed Civil Rights Enforcement Director. And on a personal note, I congratulate you as well. And I look forward to working with you as you carry out the mission of the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency to eliminate and remedying discrimination of all aspects living in the city of St. Louis. It is my distinct honor to recognize the sponsors and organizers of the 6th Annual Fair Housing Kickoff. I commend the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency of the city of St. Louis for the time and effort that has been put forward toward this worthy event. Senator McCaskill would also like to express congratulations to Dr. Lynne Cooper for receiving the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency Distinguished Fair Housing Award. The principles of freedom and equality, fundamental civil rights Americans hold dear, were denied from so many throughout history and long fought and dearly paid for during the civil rights movement. The Fair Housing Act, which President Lyndon Johnson signed into law as a part of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, was designed to end discrimination, housing practices. Over 40 years later, this legislation has made the dream of owning and renting a home available to those who might otherwise have been denied this opportunity. Therefore, it is my pleasure to join the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency today in commemorating this legislation, this important legislation. Senator McCaskill expresses her sincerest gratitude for your service to the city, fighting every day to protect civil rights for all Missourians. I would like to also say we have a congratulatory letter for Ms. Lynne Cooper from the senator, and I will, in respect of time, I will not read it, but I will make sure that she gets it. And thank you all so much for your time and for being so supportive for the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency. God bless you.
Unfortunately, the senator cannot make it, and I'm here in the stead. My name is John Skates. I'm a resident of St. Louis for 65 years, I really appreciate and know the need for the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency. I'm just here, and I'm going to be short. The senator is going to be, or is the senator for all citizens of Missouri. And if I can assist you in anything, just give me a call. I have cards, but I'm serious that we need all hands on board to solve the problems in St. Louis. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and elected officials. My name is Yasmina Hadzik, and I'm assistant to Congressman Lacy Clay. Unfortunately, the congressman couldn't join us today due to a prior engagement, but he wanted me to convey his warmest congratulations to Dr. Lynne Cooper on receipt of this honor today. I would also like to acknowledge Director April Ford Griffin and the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency for hosting this wonderful event, as well as Mr. Weill Jordan, Director of Equal Housing Opportunity Council, who will not only serve as our keynote speaker, but hopefully he will grace us with his gifted voice. Last year, as I understand, he sang. So, fair access to affordable housing remains essential to thriving communities, and the importance of Civil Rights Enforcement Agency's mission cannot be overstated. Moving forward, working to continue to ensure that all of our citizens, regardless of race, gender, or nationality, have access to affordable housing. This is crucial to the growth and success of St. Louis and the entire region as a whole, as is providing health care and creating jobs. Without further ado, on behalf of Congressman Clay, I would like to thank everyone at the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency for the crucial work that they perform. I know that you will remain vigilant to the cause and committed to this work. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. It's great to be with you all today here in St. Louis while we're on break from votes in Washington, to see so many friends and familiar faces. Director Griffin, for your new position, your leadership, and your public service, we commend you. I want to give a shout out to Sandra Moore and her continued visionary work, and that of McCormick Barron for what we see here in this neighborhood in St. Louis. It's great to see so many aldermen and other leaders here. I want to give really a special shout out to people that work in our federal agencies. I want to have them stand here this morning. Anybody that works for any of our federal agencies, stand up. Don't be shy. Too many times our leaders in our federal agencies not only don't get the credit they deserve, but oftentimes are scapegoats for other problems. And so again, you know what I'm talking about. Thank you, a big thank you for what you do. Because what we do in Washington, we can advocate, we can pass budgets, but ultimately we depend on you and other leaders here to make things happen here on the ground. This is really an important day, not only to remember the loss of Dr. King, but really the legacy of change that he helped lead, that we are really celebrating today as part of this Civil Rights Enforcement Agency celebration, the Civil Rights Act, and the inclusion of the Fair Housing Act within it. 44 years since its passage included sweeping changes which have really changed this country for good. And especially in these tough economic times. We all know that housing leads this economy, whether it's going down or whether it's coming up. And we have as many as a third of our construction trades out of work now. So we see a confluence of interest here and the need for continuing to make progress in housing and to get people back to work. This Fair Housing Act was passed to make sure nobody, no American, has the door slammed in their face because of race, religion, disability, where they came from, or what their family looks like. We will continue to fight to keep the program strong HUD's voucher program for low-income families, the elderly, and the disabled, housing opportunities for persons with AIDS, for our veterans, and for people that are being especially hard hit during this foreclosure crisis. I just want to offer our continued support for what you do from our work in Washington, and let each of us, in our own way, reaffirm our pledge to rise above, to break down barriers, to set an example, and to open doors. And lastly, I just want to congratulate my friend Lynne Cooper for her great leadership in this community and for the award and recognition you so justly deserve today. Thanks, and have a great event.
I bring you a greeting from Secretary Donovan, our secretary. He couldn't be here, as well as greeting from our regional director, Dareth Watchman Moore. Now, she is in Washington, D.C., and so she couldn't be here. I am here to say thank you to all of our partners, each and every last one of you that work with HUD to help us to accomplish our goals and our objectives. We greatly appreciate you. We cannot accomplish what we are trying to accomplish without your support and without you being a part of our team. So I would say to all of our partners and everyone in here, would you please give yourselves a hand? I also want to say thank you to Mayor Slay. Mayor Slay has been a partner and advocate and working with HUD in all of our objectives in this area, and we greatly appreciate him. Up under his leadership, he brought into fruition CREA. He also appointed Ms. Bonner. Ms. Bonner in the back, she started off working with us, and we greatly appreciated all of the service and everything that she done is to support us at the HUD office. Now he has appointed April. April is a good friend. I know her very well, and we know that this her legacy is going to continue up under her leadership. And so we greatly appreciate working with April, in this here whole venture. I also want to stand up and to acknowledge our HUD team. Many times we come out and you don't know how hard our fair housing department really work. I would tell you they are the greatest in the country, and not just because they work in St. Louis, and I know we have our regional fair housing director, and he's looking over here at me, but right now I got the mic. And I want to acknowledge our team in St. Louis, up under the leadership of Mr. Ed Weiss as our Fair Housing Director. I would ask all of the HUD team, as far as the Fair Housing Department, would you please stand? Please stand. We have Mr. Weiss here in front. We have Matthew in the back. We have Cheryl Davidson and also Frank Montgomery. And I believe that we're missing, and there's Malika Jones also in the back. I greatly appreciate all the things that you do to continue to make sure that there is fair and equal housing for everyone within our region, not just here in the city of St. Louis. Once again, I appreciate you. I thank all our partners. We look forward to continue to work with you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It is an honor to be a part of this event and to present this year's Distinguished Fair Housing Service Award. Part of CREA's important work, as you heard from April, is to protect people with disabilities. It is well recognized under St. Louis ordinances as well as the ADA that those with HIV/AIDS are disabled. They have physical impairments that substantially limit their major life activities. That's whether or not they have outwardly manifested symptoms. And they are discriminated against in our society. But CREA helps ensure that they have legal protection against discrimination here in St. Louis. Through its work, CREA addresses the bad acts and actors. We give the Distinguished Fair Housing Service Award to the really good actors out there, those working to assist the people we protect and in a manner consistent with our mission. Today's award recipient is one of those, a true humanitarian. Dr. Lynne Cooper is one of the founders and spearheads of Doorways, a program that takes affirmative steps to further fair housing in this city, specifically the housing needs of those living with HIV and AIDS. Founded here in 1988, as you heard from our mayor, Doorways now addresses the housing needs of thousands of adults and children annually living with HIV/AIDS. It helps them find affordable housing by offering them a range of housing options designed to meet their needs, provides housing assistance, and helps them to maintain their housing. Doorways is recognized as one of the most comprehensive AIDS housing programs in our nation. It is the only organization of its kind in our city and in the entire state of Missouri. For all these reasons, she is deserving of the Distinguished Fair Housing Service Award. So I say congratulations to Dr. Lynne Cooper, and I'll present her with her award.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the help from my HUD partner. And as I look out over this room, I said to someone when we came in, I said, if you recognize everybody that needed to be recognized in this room, many of whom are my sheroes and heroes, we would spend the whole day doing it. And so I can't tell you enough how appreciative I am. The other thing is when they ask you to receive an award and say a few words, and then they put 10 smart people up in front of you, there's sometimes everything that can be said is said. And, but I'd like to make a few comments relative to specifically people with AIDS and some of the things that are going on in our world. First of all, Doorways is a very busy place. HIV and AIDS is not going away. In fact, in St. Louis and in the United States, although 10% or so of our population is people of color, over 50% of new infections of HIV are people of color. So we have a genocidal situation that we have to somehow get people's brains around and have them embrace the fact that women, youth, people of color are the ones who are primarily affected these days with HIV and AIDS. Doorways is happy to be funded by HUD, Missouri Housing Development Corporation, City Affordable Housing, Bill Cedoff's department. We go everywhere we can for some money. We raise $1 million a year privately to fund the work that we do. And I'll comment also on some of the things that Director Griffin said. April, a happy month. I share this month with you. 44 years ago today, on April 4th, when Martin Luther King was assassinated on the balcony of his hotel room, as a result of that event, and partly in response to the riots around the nation, and to help placate, if you will, those communities primarily affected by discrimination in housing and health care, the Fair Housing Act of 1968 was fast-tracked, and to get some people out of trouble, and signed into law by President Lyndon Johnson 7 days later, April 11th. King's impact and influence on all of us is encyclopedic. But the most immediate and direct legacy of his dream was fair housing. And in a sense, in the face of bitter anger and disappointment over King's death, the Congress and the president could have been quoting Adrienne Rich and saying to the nation, I wanted to write some words that would change even you. The words they chose in the midst of this intense and heated conversation, words chosen by the Congress, by the president, were two words: fair housing. They outlawed discrimination on the basis of race, religion, and national origin, and later adding gender, families with children, and disability. And the intention was fair housing for everyone. But none of us can anticipate all of the ways that haters can think up to diminish and punish and exclude those who are different from them. In fact, today there are new frontiers in discrimination in the sale, renting, and financing of housing and shelters, Section 8, other subsidized housing. And this frontier involves the safety and health of undocumented immigrants, upon whom war has been declared in several states, including Alabama and Arizona and other states in the U.S. The frontier of fair housing includes homecoming veterans of war, many with intractable mental and physical disabilities never seen before, homeless because of their inability to adjust to civilian life. And this frontier includes gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgendered people, most poignantly homeless youth, of whom 40% identify as GLBT. So King's desire for fair housing for all was meant to include these differences and any other differences among us that small-minded people will come up with in the future. Less than a month ago, HUD Secretary Sean Donovan announced a ban on discrimination in HUD housing based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Assistant Secretary John Trevina added that this discrimination based on sexual and gender identity is so great that HUD could not wait for the amendment of Title VIII to address the problem in FHA mortgages, shelters, Section 8, and other federally funded subsidized housing. And to date, there are no religious exemptions for operators of HUD housing. This is important for practical and philosophical reasons. On the practical side, the spread of HIV is directly correlated with homelessness, as are other sexually transmitted infections. Homelessness also correlates to mental illness and a variety of personally painful and publicly costly medical and public health challenges. I will tell you that if housing is healthcare and housing is prevention, because people who have housing are not spreading HIV to other people at the same rate. It costs you and me about $250,000 a year, about $250,000 from infection to death for each person affected by HIV. And so every person that these rules that HUD has enforced, every person who is not infected with HIV saves us $250,000. So if you don't want to do it for the right reason, do it because it'll save us money. On the philosophical side, if we believe King's words about all people being created equal, we accept that housing is not only a civil right, but a human right. Housing is a human right, so let us pray on the anniversary of his death that Dr. King's words can change anyone, even us. Thank you very much.
First, let me welcome you to the 19th Ward. For those of you who don't know, all the partners that were mentioned who helped create this environment here, who did everything right, HUD knows that. They did everything right, and most especially for the future. When you spend $169 million, it pays off forever and ever and ever. So it's important to do it right, and I thank you for allowing us to do that here. All right. I have the honor of presenting this resolution to a long ago struggle in the fight friend. Lynne came on board working and volunteering in the HIV/AIDS arena about the same time that I recognized, because of some of my friends' struggles, what was needed, and I was volunteering. There was a lot that needed to be done in the 80s. We were trying to figure everything out and realize what those needs were. So many of us volunteered our time, gave our extra money, helped with fundraisers in our houses and all kinds of things. But what I really like about having the honor to present this resolution on behalf of the City of St. Louis and the Board of Aldermen is that all of the words that have been said earlier and all of the identifications that have been given to you, I still had not heard that this is a kind, generous, unselfish woman who gave to this community. So I won't take time to read this resolution, But I will say that it actually chronicles everything from 1989 to present. And we talk about so many of those things, you know, off and on as we're trying to do other things. And I'm proud to say that the 19th Ward has an apartment complex that was built here for housing, and most other neighborhoods didn't want it, but we took it here. So I'm very happy that community lives well. They're very respected. They participate in activities and are very good neighbors. But in ending and presenting this to you, all the other older persons, I'd like for you to come up, because this is an important opportunity to stand next to a leader in our community. I see Alderman Bosley is here now.
Great. Thanks. Thanks so much.
And I said I wasn't going to tear up, but as I think about all of the things that she's been a part of, all of a sudden a flash came by when we were trying to raise money so we could have a minority outreach leader, because we knew the numbers were just increasing in the black community. And we did every kind of stupid thing you could think of to raise $1. And we hired a friend of mine, Rochelle Patterson, and Rochelle took that banner, and she was in this community, and we got a few other people on board, and it truly made a difference in our neighborhoods. And so I just want to say, in honor of your service to the city of St. Louis from the Board of Aldermen, this resolution says that this is your day. It will be remembered forever.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, aldermen and women. And I'd just like to remember Rocky Patterson and all the people who have worked in the struggle against HIV and AIDS, and all the people who have died before we got sense enough to get things straight. So thank you for remembering me. I share this with some of our staff at Doorways who have joined me here today, and I hope you, and some of our board members who have joined us, and I appreciate you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I'm Gregory King, and I'm the acting FHEO Regional Director. And as the mayor has proclaimed, and Ms. Griffin, we are here. This is Fair Housing Month. Now, let me digress for simply a moment to say that Ms. Griffin is the director of the St. Louis Civil Rights Enforcement Agency. Mr. Jordan is the director of the Equal Housing Opportunity Center, both partners with HUD in the administration of the Fair Housing Act and in its enforcement. I have heard nothing but good things about both of them since I've been here, and nothing warms my heart like knowing that my partners are receiving and spending their money wisely. So I thank you. Now, the theme for Fair Housing Month is Live Free from Discrimination. Subtopic, creating equal opportunity in every community. If you take nothing else from this event, understand that HUD's mission and goal is to provide decent, safe, and sanitary housing for every individual in the United States without regard to race, color, religion, sex, national origin, familial status, or disability. And we have added additional coverage in HUD housing for the lesbian, gay, transsexual community, because every individual needs a place to live, every individual. And there's reason for that. Now, we've heard about the assassination of Dr. King on today's date in 1968 and the passage of the Fair Housing Act. What very few people remember is at the same time that the Congress was considering the Fair Housing Act, the Supreme Court was considering a housing discrimination case, a race discrimination case, brought by a gentleman who tried to purchase a house in Paddock Woods, Missouri. There was no Fair Housing Act, so the gentleman brought the case under a little-known Civil Rights Act from 1868. That same week that they passed the Fair Housing Act, the Supreme Court found in favor of the plaintiff in the housing discrimination case. And one of the things the court said in that case is that racial discrimination is one of the badges and incidents of slavery. In another case, the court described discrimination, which applies to any form of discrimination that's unlawful, as a dignitary tort, an assault on the dignity of another individual. Fortunately or unfortunately, people continue that assault today. Last year, there were approximately 10,000 housing discrimination complaints filed in this country with HUD and its partners. Race discrimination is no longer the predominant claim. Unfortunately, disability discrimination now has the list. Over 4,000 complaints alleging discrimination on the basis of disability. Another 3,000 complaints alleging racial discrimination. Individuals making individual decisions about another human being based on something they see and not something they know. Well, we have Fair Housing Initiative program partners who are private nonprofit organizations committed to education and outreach and enforcement in fair housing. We have FAP partners in 36 states, local communities, and the District of Columbia committed to enforcement of the Fair Housing Act or their local ordinance. The department has undertaken several initiatives. One of them is affirmatively furthering fair housing. The secretary is required to administer all of the programs and activities of the department in a manner that affirmatively furthers fair housing. That responsibility is then operates through the state and local agencies and nonprofit recipients who have that responsibility. Well, the question is, what does it mean to affirmatively further fair housing? Ultimately, there will be a regulation that will describe it. But if I could provide you with a Reader's Digest version of what it means, because I think the ultimate regulation is more than 70 pages. But if I could provide you with a Reader's Digest version of what it means to affirmatively further fair housing, it would go something like this. With respect to state and local agencies and nonprofit recipients of HUD funds, what have you actually done and what can you really do to ensure that each participant and beneficiary and each potential participant and beneficiary ultimately experiences equal access to each program and activity without regard to race, color, religion, sex, national origin, familial status, or gender, or sexual orientation. That's the Reader's Digest version. We also, in HUD's effort to affirmatively further fair housing, which also has an enforcement side to it, but in its effort to affirmatively further fair housing, HUD has translated 100 vital HUD documents into 18 different languages, so that language will not be a barrier to access to HUD programs and activities. What can you do to ensure equal access? You can make the documents readable. Now, those are the things that we've done. Those are the things that we're doing. And in Fair Housing Month, we'll be making a number of presentations. But in your programs and in your activities, if you would just ask yourself that basic affirmatively furthering fair housing question, even if you don't receive HUD funds, what can I do to make my program, my activity, my service accessible to everyone who may need it? then you will understand the impetus of Fair Housing Month. And to the degree that housing and the provision of services are your goal, as I said, HUD's goal, to provide decent, safe, and sanitary housing for every single individual in the United States. Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome. It's really a pleasure for me to be here this afternoon, and a distinct honor to introduce Willie Jordan, the Executive Director of EHOC. Now, you can look at Will's biography in your program, but I wanted to talk more so from a personal perspective of my relationship with Will over the years. When CREA initially invited Frank Montgomery and I to help them do the planning for this program, and we started discussing who would be a good keynote speaker, and I immediately said, Will Jordan is the man. And the reason I said that is two reasons, primarily because I thought that partnership was important, but more so the work that Will is doing in our community. I have long been impressed with the litany of success stories which has resulted from Will's involvement and representation of folks who often don't have an avenue to defend themselves with regard to human rights. I like the way that Lynne put that. When we were going through the civil rights period, I never talked about civil rights. I said these are human rights that are being denied. And I think we're still there today. When I think of Will, I think of the progressive leadership that he has brought to EHOC. When Will took over this agency back in 2002, a lot of folks don't know this, but the agency was going through a serious period of instability due to the loss of two previous executive directors. And to be quite honest, the agency was in hot water with HUD. Will may not have liked us much in those days, but he successfully worked through those problems and immediately began building a strong agency that has made a great impression on our local communities and indeed received attention on a national level. I always say there's a lot of great FIP organizations in the country, but I think that we have the best FIP organization here in St. Louis due to the direct actions of Will Jordan. On occasions, Will has mentioned to me when he's trying to shake people up, he says, well, you know, I just kind of name drop HUD. Well, unbeknownst to him, I name drop EHOC all the time. I shared a story with Will, a lesson that I learned from my father years ago. Coming up as a kid, especially going through grade school, I was not much of a fighter, and my father would see me run at home sometimes, and he finally sit me down one day and he said, Ed, let me tell you something. He said, if you whoop a man right, he will either leave you alone or want to be your friend. Will has gained a lot of friends in the St. Louis community, starting with some of our major banks. We talk about Enterprise, Midwest Bank, and also First National Bank. It was a pleasure joining Will yesterday at the opening of the First National branch out in North County. Now, this is the direct result of a complaint that EHOC filed with us. And not only did they open a branch bank, but there is a substantial amount of funds that will provide low-interest loans to minority and low-income borrowers, community development funding. But those are the kind of actions that make changes in this neighborhood, and Will has been directly responsible for many of them. When I think about Will, I think about his character, his leadership, his unwavering commitment, his conviction, and his passion to equal access and equal rights. Now, behind every great man, there's a great woman. And Nancy Jordan, hand in hand, has worked with her husband to push the civil and human rights movement forward. It is my distinct pleasure at this time to bring to you Will Jordan.
Wow. So, let me say this. About 4 years ago, one of my relatives who had worked for Monsanto and then one of the branch-off companies who was working with the Harris Stowe's effort to do the Martin Luther King commemorative event every year. And they asked me for a resume and a bio and all that, and they said they wanted me to speak because of my involvement with civil rights in St. Louis. And so I sent them a copy of my bio, and they said, well, give us a picture too. Sent them a picture. And she said, well, the committee was hard-pressed to believe that the person on that picture had done all that you had done. And so you look kind of young, and it's not that we don't believe you, but we really want someone who commands, a little bit more authority in their presentation, and you look pretty young, and so maybe we'll try you again next year. I said, I understand. And it wasn't an insult at all. I mean, that was my family member, so she was going to bat for me. But I thought that was something else, that my picture, and it's that same, picture that's right there, that they thought, wow, there's no way you did all that. And so I want to say that it's an honor, because the only thing I've really done in 10 years on a public level is sing and go to bat for my staff at EHOC, okay? And I want to tell you something, that I am really, really happy on behalf of EHOC, the staff, to be able to be the person that goes to bat for them, because all of the things that we did, they did. I'm just the cheerleader. I'm the one to make certain that they have every resource that they need in order to do the work that they do. They are awesome. When I say they are bad to the bone, I'm telling you that the staff of the Equal Housing Opportunity Council, when I say that name, you should go, because when I say that when they put their mind to something and they come up with these theories on how to affirmatively further fair housing, and they decide they're going to do these investigations, and they're going to rip apart the HMDA data, and they're going to rip apart the census data, and they're going to come to some conclusions about why is this city so segregated. When they find their answer, they go for it. So I want them to stand up, because I want you to know who EHOC really is. I'm the cheerleader for EHOC. I'm the one that makes them happy so that they stick around even when we don't have money. But if you would, all of my staff at Equal Housing Opportunity Council, okay? Come on, give them a hand. Thank you so much. So if you guys get mad at what EHOC does, it's them. I'm the nice guy. So April, thank you for having me. Ed, what can I say? 10 years ago, when I came on board as executive director of EHOC, my board was really concerned that the community wouldn't respond really in a positive way to have a 400-pound African-American lawyer to be in charge of civil rights in such a segregated city. They said, cities already are not really in agreement with, a lot of the principles that we aspire to here in St. Louis, and bringing you on board really is going to bring a big spotlight to the back of EHOC, and they were really concerned about doing it. And HUD insisted that they bring upon someone that could represent the community in a fashion that met the resistance in St. Louis, a strong way. And that's how I got on board. And I want to say that that 10 years ago that we were in hot water. And EHOC, not just locally, but I mean, we were in hot water all over the country. The organization was in hot water. We had just, so to speak, botched a case. One of the biggest cases in fair housing in the history of our nation. It was a real estate steering case. It sure was. Had the case not been botched, it probably would have been at the top of the books as far as textbook real estate steering out in Florissant, Missouri. And, but because the case, the testing wasn't tight, we were in hot water on a national level, we were in hot water on a local level, and HUD demanded that they get some leadership at EHOC that would be responsive and communicative with their partners so that these things wouldn't happen, so that would be an open door of communication, because we could have predicted that would happen if there was more hands on the wheel, so to speak. And I can tell you that me being a partner with Ed and with HUD and with the city of St. Louis, who came on board a little bit later after I started, and MCHR, Missouri Commission on Human Rights, has made the difference in the St. Louis area as far as civil rights and fair housing is concerned, because we do things as a team, and that has made a huge difference. And I want to thank my team. And I call you guys friends as well, because I'm a relationship kind of guy. I'm a hugging guy, I'm a singing guy, and I'll always be that, even though at the same time, you know, I'm a lawyer and we do fair housing and civil rights. I'm also a preacher, I'm a minister, I'm a chaplain, and all at the same time. And I'm happy to be that. And I want to thank my friends. I don't call you guys just work partners. I think you're my friends, because if I'm not doing this, I'm still going to be calling you, talking to you, coming over to your house for a glass of wine and all that good stuff. So you're going to keep seeing me. So I want to thank you. So I also want to now just, and if these remarks if you guys start getting glassy-eyed, right, I'm just going to start singing, because that's a gift, and I know you won't be glassy-eyed when I do that. I want to recognize something that April Ford Griffin said at the beginning, because really we're at a time where there's a bit of a resurgence of community awareness about civil rights profiling with the Trayvon Martin case. And this epitomizes who I am and where I am in that whole issue. I've been involved in several rallies, and I support the arrest of Mr. Zimmerman and a trial by jury of his peers in that situation. I think justice would be served and confidence would be restored somewhat if that happened. But in the meantime, a young lady asked me on my block a couple days ago. She said, and I'm a police chaplain for Normandy and Northeast Fire Protection District, and also the St. Louis County Jail 6th floor. It's all volunteer, and so she saw me, and when I go to different functions, I'm on purpose in uniform, because the law enforcement community in St. Louis really is seen in a negative light by normal people, especially in the African American community. Now, I don't care what it is that you think how people in the streets feel about law enforcement, it's 3 times worse than what you think. When I say 3 times worse than what you think, it is unbelievable the response that I get in my uniform versus not in my uniform from people. And I have to explain to them, and most of the time when I hit the streets, when I'm with a police officer, I wear my collar, and it kind of confuses a lot of people, especially the young people, because they're like, wait a minute, badge, collar, what's going on here? The older people say, what are you going to do, make us pray? But the young people, they stop, they pause, and I was on a ride-along in Normandy, and the officer that I was riding with, everybody kept waving at him when we were driving through on his beat. I mean, they waved, just smiling, young people in particular, African-American, male and females, ages like 10 through about 17, just waving at him. And when we got to the end of the shift, and when we do a ride-along, we do at least 4 hours. I did about 5 hours with him. And so I got to the end of the shift, and I said, wow, man, you got a really good rapport with all the people on your beat. I'm really impressed. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, well, I said, well, so many people were waving at you. And I can't imagine any officer that I know in the county that gets waved at like that by the young people, because that's not the sentiment. And he says, can I tell you something? He says, every day when I'm on his beat, these same kids that you saw waving at me mean mug me so hard that it bothers me. And because they mean mug me every day. And I haven't even done anything to some of the kids. I've never even had an interaction with them, never asked them a question, and they mean mug me. He says, today is the first time they ever smiled at me and even waved at me. And he said, it's because they saw you in your collar. Because clergy have a lot of respect in our community. And that's the gap, I think, that needs to be filled when it comes to law enforcement. Because clergy are for laws too, right? Higher, even higher than what man requires. And it's a good idea to follow laws. But when you come from a perspective of compassion and love, it's a whole lot easier to teach our young people that. And it's a good connection if young people want to pick up those values. But the person on my block, so they see me in my car, and they asked me the question, they said, so what are you? I see the collar, I see the badge, are you a cop? I said, no, I'm not a cop. I'm a police chaplain and a fire chaplain and a prison chaplain. She said, so what do you think about Trayvon? I said, I support him 100%. She said, so where's your hood? And so I said, well, I skipped that question. I said, I support Javon, and I support justice, and I would like to see Zimmerman, tried, and I'm 100% behind that. But let me tell you something, okay? I've never been a fan of the hoodie because it conceals identity. Now, I'm not saying that any person doesn't have the right to wear it, but I don't want to conceal my identity. I want you to know who I am. Because if you know who I am, then you know the quality and the content of my character, and the chances are you'll have an opportunity to judge me not on what I look like, but on the content and the quality of my character. I'm not a fan of driving in my vehicle. Here's the window. I'm in the driver's seat, leaning back with my head behind the beat pillar so that you can't see me because I'm concealing my identity. I'm in favor of sitting right there in front of that window and smiling at you when you drive by. I'm not a fan of mean mugging you, people that I don't know, people that I do know. I'm not a fan of looking mean. I'm not saying that anybody doesn't have a right to have personal expression. They definitely do. And I'm going to support them 100%. And what happened to Javon should have never happened. But at the same time, I don't have a desire to conceal my identity or to mimic different things that I don't necessarily consider to be the next level of maturity. I support them. But my son, I want you to have your ID on you when you're out in the streets. I want you to smile at people. And I want you to learn how to be confident in who you are and not hide who you are. And I think that's an important principle that we have to teach our young people, that yes, I want you to organize, I want you to deal with this because this should have never happened. But I also, at the same time, when John Lewis did what he did in Nashville, he had his pants pulled up. He had his suit on because he understood that he was going to people who had something that he wanted. And he presented himself to them in a way that said, I am responsible, and you can trust me with the keys to this city. You can trust me. Don't think that because of my color, I can't do what is necessary for us to go on as families. And so I'm a real big proponent on telling people the truth. I support Trevon. I don't wear a hoodie. I support those who do. You can wear it, but I'm not going to conceal my identity for anyone. I want you to know who I am. I read a book about fair housing. And it's from a friend of ours now, because we've met her several times. It's from Cheryl Cashin. And it's about the failures of integration. And I'm not going to be long, because I'm going to sing at the end of this. Did you guys know I was going to sing? You hoped. I'm definitely going to sing. And one of the things I wanted to read just a small excerpt for one of her chapters. And I want to say this after I read it, okay? And it's about the human tendency of separation. Not black and white, but just the human tendency. Because we're all the same. We are. We have to see our commonalities if we want to solve the problems. We are the same. And given the situation changing, we would do the same thing as humans because it's the tendency of a human to do this. Our tendency to create separated communities of abundance and of need contributes to a divisive loggerhead. With homogeneity comes parochialism, or a reduced capacity for empathy with those who live beyond the gate, figuratively or literally. Homogeneity of any kind has a way of breeding an inward-looking self-interest. Once achieved, homogeneity can become its own entitlement, a fortress of advantage that must be defended wherever the invaders are, if they're low income, Latino workers, average students just getting into the workforce. They're the outsiders. They're the newcomers. There's a movie that's out right now. It's called The Hunger Games. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to read anything about it or see it. I've seen it. Really powerful message that it has. And it talks to us about our fears and about what happens when we oppress people as a result of wanting to have control over people. One of the things I've always told my staff is that I can't control anyone. No one in the city. I can't control any of my staff. I can't control fair housing. I can't control politics. We have no control over things like that. It's enough for me to try to control myself. That's enough work. And that if I'm going to do anything, I ought to look inwardly and challenge myself about what fears, what type of things am I defending? Am I doing things out of fear or out of faith? Because as I operate out of fear, that's when the NIMBYisms happen. And that's exactly what happens regardless of whether it might start as race, then it moves to disability, then it continually, perpetually is a situation with LGBT, exclusion, judgment, right? The list goes on because it's something that's outside that I am afraid of. But fear has never helped our society. And if we could take the energy that we have, that we take into defending our communities, and start to understand that the young generation doesn't respond to that. They respond to one thing: love. I know it's a hard principle to get, but if we lose love, we'll lose them. But they're not going to go anywhere and they're lost. They're going to be right here next to us, lost. And it's going to cost us tremendously, tremendously. So I'm going to sing, and I want us to think about what it is that we can do to keep ourselves in a state where we're not afraid, where we're humble, where we're humble. And you guys, feel free to join in. Think jazzy. Think jazzy. Okay? A broken spirit and a contrite heart, He will not despise. He will not despise, for He desires truth from the inward parts. A broken spirit and a contrite heart. Lord, my heart is prone to wander, hey, prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, take and seal it for your courts above. A broken spirit and a contrite heart He will not despise. He will not despise, for He desires truth from the inward parts. A broken spirit and a contrite heart. Lord, my heart is prone to wander, hey, prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, take and seal it for your courts above. 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 A contrite heart, seal it for
your courts above. Yes, seal it for your courts above. Seal it for your courts above.
I just want to present you with our Fair Housing CREA Award, just a token of our appreciation for you gracing us with your beautiful voice.
Thank you,
and
April.
with your powerful words. So thank you, and thank you for willing to work with us and partner with us, and whatever I call about you, like, yeah, we can do it. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. We also have the president of Urban Strategies that we spoke about earlier. We have Ms. Sandra Moore, who was able to get here before we close. So if you'll give us just a couple of more minutes of your time, she wants to say a few words to you before we end.
Thank you, thanks. And just a couple and very, very quick, because I walked in and I know that I'm standing between you all and food. Very good food. First of all, I apologize for not getting here earlier. It is the bane of my existence that I don't get to work only in St. Louis and think only about St. Louis. And so we had some rough things going on somewhere else in the country that I had to attend to. But I wanted to get here, one, because civil rights and equity is really the platform upon which all of our work is done. If you drive around this community, you have to understand that this is about the ultimate civil right, the ultimate human right, the right to good, quality, decent, affordable housing in safe, attractive neighborhoods. So you've had plenty of people to tell you about that. That's not what I wanted to rush here to tell you. What I wanted to rush here to tell you is that it can't get done without a cadre of people who are passionate about doing the right thing for the right reasons. And our team of companies, McCormick, Bear & Salazar, who built it, Urban Strategies, who services it, we've only been able to do it. McCormick, Bear & Reagan Company that manages it, we've only been able to do it because we had the St. Louis Housing Authority and Cheryl Lovell, who is relentless about making certain that we build good stuff. That we had April Ford Griffin at a time when she was in a different capacity, who was compassionate about us doing good stuff. Our wonderful alderwoman who's always pushing us to do good stuff. So I really didn't want you all to leave today without understanding, and I did hear our earlier speaker say that every single one of us has to be focused in our work around the equity of good and fair and affordable housing and all of the other matters that are at the heart of civil rights. So I'm here to say thank you, thank you, thank you to the entire team that made it possible for us to do this work. Thank you.
And we just want to say thank you again to, we call her Sandy, to Sandy for partnering with us to help make this event possible. I hope everybody is fired up. I hope you've heard something today that has inspired you to continue to fight the good fight. I'm fired up. And I need to be fired up every now and then, because when you do this sort of work, I get sad, I get frustrated, I get tired. I say, oh, I'm leaving St. Louis. Tired of this. I've lived other places. I've seen other things. I know it can be different sometimes. But then, you know, something happens and comes along to where I realize that I'm fortunate to be here. I'm fortunate to be able to make a difference and meet so many great people. And so I just want to, the mayor left before I got to tell him he went too far. He introduced a lot of people that I was supposed to introduce. But he recognized all the elected officials that are here, so I won't do that again. I just want to thank you for coming. You know you are my colleagues for life, whether I'm in office or not. You know, we have a connection that people don't understand. And so I thank you for coming. I want to acknowledge all of our commissioners who are here. They are right there with us, helping us on the planning committee, helping us with what we do day to day, and so we appreciate it's a volunteer position. All of them have real jobs that pay, so thank you for coming out, for working with us, and hopefully we will get to meet and greet some of the people afterwards. I thank our staff for coming and helping to put this together, our planning committee. I thank the city's interpreter who's been here to provide a great service to us. I also want to, I want to thank Lisa Weeks of Urban Strategy, who had to receive many of my emails, and when I get nervous, say, Lisa, did you get that? I see her out there, Lisa, what's going on? Did you do what you told me you was gonna do? What do we need to do? So I appreciate Sandra Moore putting her with me to really help work out the details. Also, I want to thank Cheryl Lovell, who we look forward to working with the Housing Authority. I look forward to working with many of the service providers. I know everybody out there, so I won't try to name everybody's name, but I do want to thank Elisa Warren and Cheryl Rose from the Missouri Commission on Human Rights for coming. She's all the way here from Jeff City and from our local office, so I appreciate your willingness to continue to work with us and welcoming me since I've been here just this 6 months, making me feel right at home. I want to thank all the city directors and staff that came out today and the city employees. I want to thank our former director for coming and being supportive and for all that she's done to blaze a trail for many years in civil rights. And so I also want to thank Sal Martinez, who helped me. I'm used to Sal putting together all the programs in the 5th Ward, so certain things I had to check to make sure I had it right. So I want to thank him for coming and also giving our agency an audience with the minority contractors when he has had them at workshops, and he has extended an invitation that we can come and do training with them in the future. So I appreciate it. I want to thank everybody for coming. I'm going to stop because I say I'm not going to name everybody, but I want to thank some of our 5th Ward residents that are here that I've seen. I see Malik Ahmed from Better Family Life. We certainly have worked with him in the past, and I will be calling to see how we can come and do some training and work with you in the future. We thank also our partner, Roy Pierce, who is a former director at HUD, for working with us and for guiding me as I have come to the new job. We hope you will stay and enjoy the food that you've been smelling. Please don't leave without taking some with you or eating some here. I'm here, my staff is here. If you have any questions, please get some more information outside. And we just thank you for taking out the time to come and honor our special awardee, Dr. Cooper, and hearing our guest speaker, Mr. Jordan. So thank you.